So there's been a lot of debate, a lot of conversation after the games this week, after week one, about how important preseason is and how the offenses struggle and things like that because of no preseason football, especially for the quarterbacks. So since I am a nerd, since I like doing math, and since I like numbers, I went and looked at the data, and I thought that I shared what I found with you guys because it was genuinely very surprising. So to start off, there are 10 teams that did not play their starting quarterback at all. And when I say play, I mean their starting quarterback did not attempt a pass in a preseason game. So, 22 teams did play their starting quarterback for at least one pass attempt in the preseason. And we will see a difference that makes. The teams that did not play their starters at all: Arizona, Atlanta, Baltimore, Cleveland, the LA Rams, the New York Jets, Dallas, Detroit, the Chargers, and the Eagles. Now, for some of these teams, like Cleveland, the Jets, and the Chargers, their quarterback was coming off of injury. That's why they didn't play. The teams that did play their starters, everybody else: Carolina, Cincinnati, Denver, Green Bay, the Colts, the Jaguars, the Raiders, the Giants, the Titans, the Commanders, Buffalo, the Texans, Chiefs, Dolphins, Vikings, Patriots, Saints, Steelers, Niners, Seahawks, Bucks, and Bears. So record-wise, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. The teams that did not play their starters are 4-6. The teams that did play their starters in preseason are 12-10. So right off the bat, 40% win percentage compared to 54. So that is one win for the play your starters crowd. However, I looked at the yardage total and points scored of these two groups. The teams that benched their starters in the preseason, or once again, their starting quarterbacks more specifically, averaged 317 yards and 22.9 points in their games this week. Now, they were 4-6, but that's what they averaged. You know, some outliers: we had the Eagles put up 400 yards and Baltimore put up 452 yards. Eagles and Dallas scored 34 and 33 points respectively. Those are some of the outliers there. There's no one really that had a disgusting yardage total. The lowest yardage total in this group was the Atlanta Falcons, 226 yards. Now, I forgot to mention them a second ago when I was talking about quarterbacks coming off of injury. Kirk Cousins also coming off the Achilles, which has been widely talked about this week because it's very evident that he is not healthy yet. For the teams that did play their starters, surprisingly, they averaged 305 yards and 22.9 points. So both groups, if you play your starters, you didn't play starters, the average score was 22.9 points, which means that it's most likely the average across the entire NFL. Now, we don't know for sure unless you combine all 32 and, average them out. But their yardage total is 12 yards less. Yet, 12 of these teams won games, 10 of them lost. 54% to 40% because it's a bigger sample size. So, what does this really mean? Outliers for the larger group of teams: the Chicago Bears put up 148 yards. Carolina put up 193. So, those are two very low yardage totals, bringing down the rest of the group. Everybody else is fairly normal. Points-wise, the Giants put up 6. And then, you have the Saints put up 47. So, those are your two outliers. Everybody else is kind of in that middle gap. But I think overall what this shows us is that, no, there's not a big difference, at least statistically, that comes from playing your starters or not playing your starters. But, these teams seem to win more games on average, 54% to 40%. On top of that, if you look at some of these teams, like 49ers played Brock Purdy, but McCaffrey, Trent Williams, and Brandon Ayuk barely practiced all summer. Like the Carolina Panthers played their starters, but the Carolina Panthers suck. So, the Carolina Panthers, compared to any of the teams that didn't play their starters, honestly, all of them could have a winning record this year. Arizona, Atlanta, Baltimore, Cleveland, Rams, Jets, Dallas, Detroit, Chargers, and Eagles. The only two teams that probably won't have a winning record are Arizona because their defense is cheeks, but we're not talking about the defense right now. The offense put up great numbers in Buffalo. And then the Cleveland Browns, because, their quarterback is a multitude of things that I will not be getting into right now. So I think overall, each team-by-team case is different. Just the numbers show us that it doesn't really matter in the yardage and point total-wise, which is how we talk about offense. But I think it leads to, everything else with, holdouts and stuff like that. The lack of playing extensive time in the preseason has led to lower offensive production to start the year as compared to, a decade ago. When people like Brady and Peyton Manning and all of those guys were playing extensively in the preseason. As a Giants fan, I remember Eli Manning going into, the end of the half, start of the second half in preseason games. That's kind of how, the Victor Cruz thing started. But overall, my views on this is, yes, starters should play preseason. I get why teams don't want to, but they should play in the preseason because I think it just gets rid of that rust early so then you can hit the ground running. And the biggest example is that the back-to-back Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, play their starters every single preseason without fail. It doesn't matter who you are going to play in the preseason for Kansas City as long as you're healthy. So I think all of that combines to say that most likely teams should be leaning towards playing their starters, especially their starting quarterbacks, for at least a few drives with the starting offensive line, because I think starting off rusty, having a bad 4 weeks to start the season, is much worse than maybe losing a tackle or receiver to a 2-3 week injury. Now, obviously, you play your starting quarterback in the preseason and he tears his ACL, that's going to be an awful look for you, and you're going to get criticized repeatedly the entire season. You'll most likely lose your job. So I understand that. At the same time, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, maybe Michael Penix should have played more than one drive in the preseason so that he could have played right now and let Kirk Cousins stay healthy. But the Atlanta Falcons, Terry Fontenot and their decision-making process, that's them. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please remember to like and subscribe. If there's any other topics in the NFL that you want me to get super nerdy on with the numbers, let me know. Peace.